Is your magic meter running low? Well, we've got a cure for you. Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePauli, and today on the show, I have a listener of the show, Ryan, joining me all the way from Canada. Oh, Canada! Hello, Ryan. How's it going?
Hello, Jeff. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I think you are the first Canadian to be heard on Disney Coast to Coast. I could be wrong about that, but I think you're the first, so welcome.
Oh, wow, this is an honor. I mean, I guess we're going to the upper coast today.
Yes, so you're like east upper coast, right? You're on the east side of Canada, I believe, right?
So my side lines up with the eastern coast of US, but I'm somewhat, I would say, the middle of Canada itself. Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, today we are here for a Prime Time at the Parks episode because it's kind of a special Prime Time at the Parks episode in the sense that normally we look back at some older shows from the 90s and such and look at these episodes where sitcoms go into the parks and spend time at Disneyland or Walt Disney World. But this time around, we had a season premiere just this last week, and we weren't really sure what was going to happen because the show is the Goldbergs, which is on ABC. And in the ads, you know, they were promoting it as a tribute to National Lampoon's Vacation. And they were going to Disneyland. So we couldn't really tell, hey, are they going to Disneyland and spending a big chunk of the episode there? Or is it going to be mostly a road trip situation? Which is why Ryan's on the show, because I sent out a tweet asking people if they'd ever taken a long road trip to a Disney park, and you have indeed. And as I mentioned, TV season is back. ABC, it's all starting back up. And is there anything you're going to be checking out on ABC this season?
So I have been I'm trying to catch up with Modern Family right now, especially with this last season coming up. So I'm looking forward to that. But I mean, in terms of ABC, yeah, that's the only other show that I'm keeping up with.
Yeah, it's funny because, first of all, this TV season has, like, snuck up on us as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, right.
Because normally, after a summer hiatus of all the shows, I'm usually ready, but I was like, oh my gosh, everything's back already. And I think it's because, I'm going to go on a tangent real quickly, but it actually ties into Disney somehow. But this past summer, for the first time ever, I watched one of the worst shows ever on television, Big Brother. Have you ever watched You ever watched this show?
No, I can't say I have.
Okay, it's horrible, and it's horribly addicting. Like, really, really addicting. And it's on 3 days a week. Really, it's on 7 days a week if you watch, like, the cams running all the time on Pop TV and stuff. It becomes addicting. The reason I tuned into Big Brother is because Tommy Bracco, from the original Broadway cast of Newsies, was on Big Brother. It's the only reason I tuned in. And I'm so happy to say he did really well. He got 5th place. He should have been 1st place.
Okay.
He got royally screwed over by the guy who ended up winning. And, you know, it was obviously a good move because he won, but at the same time, like, he made up a huge lie about Tommy, and it was heartbreaking because Tommy was sad and crying, and it's a terrible show, but it is highly addictive. So if Tommy Bracco happens to be listening or one of his friends, let him know I'm so proud of him. He did so well. And he got me to watch Big Brother, which frankly, for years, people have been trying to get me to watch, and I've been refusing. I was like, nope. And now, I watched it, and I'm committed. If I watch something, I watch it. I watched every episode of that season, so it was wild. Anyway, tangent over. We're going to be talking about the Goldbergs, their tribute to National Lampoon's Vacation, which was a film from 1983, where they're taking a road trip to Wally World. And this time on the Goldbergs, they are going to Disneyland. So let's get into that conversation right now.
Don't touch that remote, because you're tuned into Prime Time at the Parks.
Okay, to start off, I want to know, how familiar are you or were you with the Goldbergs?
So I recently got into the Goldbergs about a couple weeks ago, and I just finished season 1, starting season 2.
Oh, so you binged?
Oh yeah, I straight binge because I wanted to get to really know these characters before I watched the season 7 premiere because of all these ads about it going to Disneyland, and I was like, this is the first show that I get to watch like live, where they actually do a Disney park. So I was like, okay, I have to like catch up quick.
And this was like for you personally. This had nothing to do with us recording this episode.
No, not
You were just
at
like, I
all,
want to
no.
jump into this and get going.
Exactly, yeah. Because like I wasn't expecting to like Modern Family when I started it, because I only started it like earlier this summer, and when they did the Disneyland episode, I did enjoy it. Like it was fun. I really liked the character, so I was like, I'll check another show out. And the Goldbergs was kind of that chemistry of a family dynamic that I was interested in. So that's what drawn me to it.
Okay, so I've discussed my thoughts on the Goldbergs quite a bit on the show. We're not going to get into it. I don't watch it anymore. I did watch the first season for sure, maybe the first 2 seasons. It just became very repetitive for me, which is why I stopped. But of course, they're doing a Disney episode. I got to check it out. And I got to be honest, I did enjoy this episode. There were definitely moments. It was definitely more National Lampoon's Vacation related than it was Disneyland related. But we're going to get into your road trip in a little bit. But let's talk a little bit about the episode first. As I said, the premise is essentially the mom wants to have a family vacation before kids go off to college and, you know, go to these next steps in their lives. So they're like, okay, we're road tripping it from Pennsylvania to Disneyland, which frankly is further than Walt Disney World, I believe.
Yeah.
So that was
why I was confused too.
Well, they're like, you know what, we're in SoCal, we don't have to fly the cast to Walt Disney World to shoot. So so they went to Disneyland. Of course, antics along the way, many moments that are reminiscent of the original National Lampoon's Vacation movie, which I'm sure many people have seen. But any thoughts overall, or anything that jumped out to you on the episode?
Yes, definitely a big tribute to National Lampoon's Vacation. Like I recently watched it a couple days ago just to see what kind of nods they'll do in this episode, and there are a lot of nods, and I'm sure we'll get into it as we discuss this more, but they really hammer home like this is a tribute to National Lampoon's Vacation than a Disneyland episode at all.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I've always loved about this show is the actor Sean Giambrone, who plays Adam Goldberg. He cracks me up. He just does. I think he's one of the most awkward, funny kids on earth. And there's a line at the beginning of the movie that I was like, bravo. Because let's face it, Disney, ABC right now is doing a huge push for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And you know, it's on a lot of shows. The View is talking about it. Good Morning America. We got the Goldbergs. We've got Freeform is doing stuff for it. So there's a big push for it right now. Obviously, they're trying to market the heck out of it. But then you get to the idea of the Goldbergs, and it's like, well, we can't do this because this show takes place in 1980-something. So they came up with a really good idea that, frankly, is pretty obvious, but I honestly hadn't thought of, and that is that Adam is very excited to go check out this new attraction called Star Tours. And he has this fantastic line where he goes, sure, I wish they'd dedicate a whole land to Star Wars, but that's just a little boy's dream. And I was like, okay, that's laugh out loud funny. That was it was cute because like anyone who's seen Star Wars before they announced Star Wars Land was like really hoping that we would at least one day see an amusement park, not Disney specifically, but any Disney theme park dedicated to Star Wars. Yeah, so I thought that was smart. It's a little on the nose, a little bit in your face, but at the same time, so perfect. And, you know, it was a good wink moment on the show. I thought it was very funny. Right. As I mentioned, they were going from Pennsylvania to Anaheim, which is a 38-hour drive, according to Google Maps. Wow. Gotta be honest, that's actually shorter than I expected. I thought it would take longer than that. When I drove across the country, I drove from Massachusetts to Southern California when I moved out here, and I took like 10 days because I made a vacation out of it. I made stops, and we'll get into that and stuff. So to hear that you could, because Pennsylvania is not that far from Massachusetts, to hear that you could legitimately do it in like 38 hours if you didn't stop was shocking to me. I was like, wow. All right. So totally doable. There's this great moment with the bathrobe. Do you remember this? When they're getting ready to get in the car and Adam comes out in his bathrobe and the dad's like, take that off. Yes. And he's like, it's a Jedi robe. Yes. And the thing that made me laugh was I was like, you know what? I wonder what the rules were in the 80s as far as wearing costumes in the park. Because I honestly don't know if they were as strict back then. Not that Adam brought it. He ended up, Dad made him leave it home. But I did think to myself, it's like, I wonder if they would have been allowed in the park with that. I wonder, 'cause it's very weird now that with Galaxy's Edge, you can buy a robe there, but I think not still, I don't think they allow you to wear it inside the land, which is bizarre.
Yeah, exactly. Because you would think like I remember when they first announced Star Wars Galaxy's Edge that you wanted to feel immersed in the land. So why not, wear the garments in the land itself? But
Yeah,
who knows?
it's bizarre. What moments on the episode of the Goldbergs, since you had just freshly watched National Lampoon's Vacation, what were some of those moments that were like dead on, nail on head, definitely a tribute to that?
Oh, I mean, the car itself that they're driving, it's almost the exact same color, same like model as the car that they drove in National Lampoon's Vacation. I just couldn't help but like look at it and just like it looks the exact same.
I was noticing that, but correct me if I'm wrong, since you just watched season 1, that is the Goldbergs car, right? This wasn't a special car for this episode. I'm pretty sure that was like, I think that's their family car.
I feel like the one that they had in the show was more brown. I don't think it was green.
Okay, typically the years are definitely different, and even they just looked similar. They definitely weren't the same car, but typically on that show, the dad has a 1989 Cadillac, and then the Griswolds had a 1979 Ford station wagon. So I don't know if those two cars look similar or what, but I definitely thought that too. I was like, oh, these cars. It definitely feels a little bit like a tribute, but I did feel like this is just kind of a nice coincidence.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. And then the luggage kept falling off the car. That happened on Vacation a lot.
That happened.
Right?
Yep, it did. Yep.
Yeah.
What else was there? They use the same song that they use in National Lampoon's Vacation. I can't remember how it goes.
Holiday.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I just seeing that with the Goldbergs, I was like, oh, this is going to be a nice episode. Like, especially when they shot the logo, like the Goldbergs version of the National Lampoon's.
Yeah, they made a title card that was very similar to the VHS cover of National Lampoon's Vacation. Right. When you jump from season 1 to, I think it's now season 7, you obviously missed a bunch in the middle. Did it feel like the same show to you, the same family, or was it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. It really felt like the same, like it felt like nothing had changed, but in a good way. Like the dynamics were the same. No one felt exactly. No one felt like odd. No one felt like bored. I mean, the dad is always that kind of character, so I'm not surprised that like he's still like just does not care about the family too much. But in the end, he still really loves them and all. Yeah. So I was glad. Yeah.
Now, another tribute back to the National Lampoon's Vacation movie is definitely the red car girl,
the red
flirting,
Ferrari,
who they got back, Christy Brinkley from the original film. There are two people from the original National Lampoon's Vacation who make cameos in this episode. The first one we'll talk about is Christy Brinkley. As you said, red Ferrari, is it?
Yes, it's a Ferrari. Yeah, because I remember in the credits in the National Lampoon's Vacation, they just call her Girl in Ferrari.
Oh, okay, interesting. So the grandfather ends up with her and stuff. So that was like a direct tribute to National Lampoon's Vacation, which, now that I'm thinking of it, which studio makes National Lampoon's Vacation? It looks like it is Warner Brothers, which is one of the few studios that Disney does not own. So
right.
That sadly doesn't. Wouldn't that have been a nice little bow package moment? I would have loved that, but it didn't happen. But there was a moment in this that really had nothing to do with Star Wars, but I gotta say, made me laugh, and I'm sure that this wasn't intentional, but I was like, oh, kind of spot on commentary for what's going on with Galaxy's Edge. And this is when they, along the road trip, went to this Western town shop area that had a hotel and stuff. And it cracked me up because the teenage daughter was looking for a phone. She wanted to talk to her boyfriend. She thought he was going to break up with her, yada, yada. And she's looking around for a phone, and she's talking to these people in character, work in this Western town. And she's like, where can I find a phone? I don't know what this newfangled technology is that you're talking about. And she's like, really? You're going to stay in character? I'm paraphrasing here, but basically that was the sentiment. And do you know where I'm going with this when I say this?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
I think it's hilarious because it's one of the biggest complaints I've heard from people about Star Wars Galaxy's Edge.
Right.
Is that it's like, okay, this one of the biggest ones is when you're like, oh, is that where I go build a lightsaber? And they're like, that's where you collect scrap metal. And
I've heard that a lot.
Yeah. So I just love the fact that that was one of the things that people are complaining about Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and they put it right in this Goldbergs episode. Do you think that was on purpose? I don't. But I thought
don't
it was
think
fun.
so.
Yeah. Like, that's funny. Did you pick up on that when you were watching?
Now that you mention it, it does seem familiar like that, but not when I was watching. But it does also. I can't remember what else they do at Galaxy Edge, because I remember someone was complaining about the washrooms. They were trying to ask for directions to the washrooms.
Oh, for restroom.
I don't know what they.
Yeah, I don't know what they call
something
them
else. Yeah, it's like some weird thing that you would never know to call restrooms. But the fact that like they never give straight directions to you there, it's crazy.
You know, it always makes me think of Wizarding World of Harry Potter, and maybe I made this up in my mind, but I do feel like when that first opened, they were like, "Oh yeah, everybody working there's going to have a British accent." I was like, "Oh, that is not going to last." I said, maybe I made that up in my mind, but from what I understand, the wand keepers or whatever they call them at Ollivanders, they still always have a British accent, but like nobody else does. So
right.
Listen, I get it, and I appreciate it even, the whole fully immersive storytelling. I do appreciate it, but it gets to a point where you're like, really? You're just gonna keep going with this? Really?
Yeah, right.
So I loved that. That was probably my favorite moment in the episode, to be honest, just because it made me laugh so much. I was like, that's fantastic. Eventually, of course, they do get to Disneyland, and we get a shot of the original Disneyland sign.
Yes.
Or at least the one from the 80s. And I was like, okay, I appreciate that. They didn't, they got the 1980s Disneyland entrance. That's great. And then we end up in the parking lot, which if you know Disneyland, clearly isn't the parking lot, but that's fine. It's a parking lot. Of course, where the Goldbergs were parked is now Disney California Adventure. So that's kind of fun and interesting. But the first red flag of this makes zero sense, this Disneyland stuff, was the empty parking lot.
Yes, exactly. Okay, empty parking lot. And when they get to the gate, the guard, who we'll eventually talk about, says that the park opens in 15 minutes.
Yeah. So here's the thing. If you are familiar with the movie Vacation, this whole empty parking lot at first could have worked because in Vacation, once they get to Wally World, the park is legitimately closed, and the security guard in that, I believe, is John Candy, right?
Yes, it is.
The late great John Candy. And when they get there, it's closed. So an empty parking lot would make sense. So you could think to yourself, oh, well, maybe they're going with this whole Disneyland is closed thing, therefore the parking lot is empty. But as you mentioned, once they get to the security guard, who once again is a memorable actor, this is Anthony Michael Hall, who played Russ Griswold in the original National Lampoon's Vacation, and a couple of the others, not all of them. Those actors changed quite a bit. But he does mention, he's like, he does. It starts off with we're closed, and then mom goes off on this tangent and
weird. Yeah, exactly.
And he's like, you didn't let me finish. We're closed for 15 minutes. We'll be opening in 15 minutes. And at that point I was like, okay, your parking lot makes no sense. Not even in the 80s was Disneyland ever empty like that. Like they were legitimately the only people there. So it kind of made me laugh a bit. But yeah, that as far as they didn't spend a time in Disneyland. So they're typically would talk about, things that didn't make sense, but everything we saw did. The amount of time that they said, I think the mom at one point was like, it's going to take, we need 2 more nights on the road. And I'm like, yep, that works out as far as the timing and stuff. The sign for Disneyland worked out. The only thing that really stuck out like a sore thumb was an empty parking lot.
Yep.
And
exactly.
That was fairly funny. But anything else that stuck out to you in this episode that you really want to talk about?
There is a small mention near the end of the episode when they're in the empty parking lot. I don't remember if it was Adam who mentions it or the mom, but one of them mentions they want to go to Walt Disney World for the next road trip.
And they said Walt Disney World, which made me so happy.
Yes.
Because
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, I interrupted you, but that was just shocking to me because I was like, even though like obviously Disney corporate has a say in these scripts and stuff to make sure, usually like the company doesn't care that much. But when he said Walt Disney World, I was like, oh my gosh, like, yes.
Yeah, they're getting the name right.
Why did that stick out to you? Were you just thinking of me or did you?
Well, yes, that, but also, I've seen the Modern Family one. I've seen the Roseanne and the Full House one. So
Okay.
the Full House and Roseanne Disney episodes, they go to Walt Disney World, and in both of those shows, they only call it Disney World. They don't put Walt in it, so
Yeah.
that's why it really stuck out to me more
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I loved that, and I was surprised by that. But I was like, great, even more reason to love Adam Goldberg. I think it was Adam that said it.
I feel like it was, yeah.
Yeah, but that was great. Another thing that at the end of each episode of the Goldbergs is, so the creator of the show, his real name is Adam Goldberg, and this sitcom is loosely based on his childhood. And so Sean Giambrone plays the creator of the show at a young age, and because of that, he often ends the show with real life like home video footage, which this guy must have had a camera rolling all the time, because
Exactly, I know.
holy moly, he captures stuff. But we got to see some legitimate old footage of a young Adam Goldberg with one of the seven dwarfs in Disneyland, as well as I think it was him and his dad on Autopia. So that was kind of fun to see some old retro 80s footage of Disneyland. Very brief, but still cool, and puts it in a reality space, which is nice.
Right.
So I liked it. Cool. Well, I want to talk about your road trip, but is there anything else you want to add about the Goldbergs? I almost called them the Griswolds for a second. The Goldbergs.
No, I think that's pretty much it. I did enjoy the episode. Obviously, if you're just tuning in because it's a Disneyland episode, you'll be very disappointed. But
I actually think you'll enjoy it more if you just...
Oh, really?
Yeah. I see what you're saying. You're saying because you're only there for the Disney stuff. I thought you were saying if you don't know the rest of the series. Yeah. If you want to, you're not going to see them playing in the parks. In fact, one thing that actually bothered me was we never got to see Adam experience Star Tours. He opted to ride Big Thunder Mountain Railroad because he was like, this is something the entire family will do, which frankly, like to me, Star Tours is a family ride as well.
Right. Yeah. More family oriented.
Yeah, I wish that we could have... I do wish we could have seen him in Star Tours and, like, I don't know, a character meet and greet with Adam and C-3PO or something like that would have been cool.
Right.
So that definitely was a bit of a disappointment. But I was just talking about this. I just recently did an episode all about Big Thunder Mountain Railroad and its history since it just celebrated its 40th anniversary. And in that episode, I did mention that Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, to me, more than like a ride that I feel like, oh, I got to go ride that, it is just such an iconic attraction. And I specifically mentioned, I'm like, you see it in all the commercials, you see it in all the sitcoms. It's that attraction that is, to me, it's that and Dumbo and even Splash Mountain to a point. It's just like, it's always there in the commercials and ads. So it didn't surprise me that Big Thunder Mountain Railroad is what we get to see them on. But I really think, considering the whole reason that Adam even wanted to go was Star Tours, I wish we had seen that. And I'm trying to think, I think that, nothing in that attraction has changed too much, especially inside the cabin, that they couldn't have shot inside the cabin. Obviously we now have Star Tours, The Adventures Continue, which is an updated version, which if they used that, obviously wouldn't make sense in the 1980s. But they could have easily, even if we didn't see any of that original film from the original attraction, I feel like they could have shot around it in a way that they could have been on Star Tours. So I don't honestly know the reasoning why they didn't do that. I'd be curious to know why, but it didn't happen, which is a real bummer.
Yeah, I know.
Crazy.
I know.
Okay, well, let's talk about your road trip to Walt Disney World.
All right.
You're going from Canada to Walt Disney World.
I went, straight down the coast, East Coast, so easy for us, same time zone. So this took place about 9 years ago in March of 2010. I'm an only child, so it was me, my mom, my dad, and we went with my mom's brother, so my uncle, and his family. So there was 2 kids and his wife. So there's 7 of us on this whole road trip. And I'm 12 at this point, and the other 2 kids are 9 and 4 years old. So it's a tight space. We got a van.
Yeah, that's so 4, 9, and 12 on a road trip to Walt Disney World. How long's this drive?
So this trip, if we went straight down, like about 20 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
so
mind blowing to me to think that you could drive the entire East Coast in that short a
I
period
know.
of time. I mean, you shouldn't do it. I would say if
No, no.
if you're gonna do it, take a night, enjoy it somewhere. But yeah, no, continue with your story.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, we have I mean, and we're pretty close. Like my all my cousins and I, we're all pretty close. So it's not like there's gonna be any tension in the car over this trip. But being cooped up in a car, filling up all the space is like, gonna take a lot out of you. So yeah, we went during the second and third week of March because here in Canada, our third week of March is what our March break is, so just a week long break. So we went during that time, and we left Toronto on a Saturday around 9 a.m. in the morning, and we just went straight down to North Carolina, which was about 10 to 11 hours.
That's most of the way for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like the only reason we stopped because by the time we got there, it was like the sun was setting a little bit, so we're like, okay, I think we'll just rest here. Like there's no rush for us to stop because we really counted like if we hit traffic or anything. So yeah, we decided to stop in North Carolina, and I really remember we stopped at this very unique restaurant. It was very themed to like a Western. Like it was like it felt like
Was it the
like
Western town that the Goldbergs ran into?
Honestly, it could have been that. But it just felt very Western. Like I felt so out of place there. Like I didn't know what to expect going in, but it was good. I can't remember the food that well, but like I just remember really enjoying that. And yeah, we stayed there for one night. And then as soon as morning came, we drove straight down, which took us about.
So this is from North Carolina to Orlando?
Yeah, we tried to go down to Orlando, but we ended up just going straight to Kissimmee, which is about 9 hours.
Sure.
So that's like just right outside Orlando. And since by the time we got there, it was kind of late because we didn't want to waste a day. Because once you check in,
Sure.
you're gonna have to like go to the park right away because that counts as your one day.
Sure.
So we're like, we'll just wait for the next day because we're right here. So might as well just take one final stop outside the park and recuperate before going right in and starting fresh with our new day.
Yeah. Now on the Goldbergs, we obviously saw the siblings fighting quite a bit in the car. I mean, that much time in the car. What did you do most of that time?
So luckily, the reason why we took their car specifically, their van, because it had a DVD player.
Nice.
We had a DVD player installed there, so we were able to watch a lot of Disney movies going down there, which really helped because I'm 12. So at this point, I was 12, and I stopped. I stopped with Disney movies in general. Like I would watch Disney Channel, but that was like my extent.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, though, I had VHS tapes. Like my mom would buy me VHS tapes of all the different types of movies that were coming out on VHS, and I remember watching them very well. But the movies itself, I never really, I don't remember that well. Besides like the early 2000s ones. So watching all these movies going down to Walt Disney World, it really helped to bring out the Disney fan in me back up again. So yeah, we watched a lot going down there.
I can remember that actually as around that, probably a little bit older, but you do reach that age where I feel like most people, as much of a Disney fan as you are as a kid, you do stop watching a lot of them because you become either too cool or too busy in your mind. And then you become an adult and you're like, why am I not watching these amazing things anymore? And you start up again. But I do remember, I was flying to Walt Disney World, but I do remember as like a teenager being like, oh, we're going to Walt Disney World. I'm like, you know what? I've never seen Mulan. I should really watch that because that was like the newest one at the point. I'm like, I should really watch that and prepare for it. And I remember like laying in bed the night before the flight and watching Mulan and being like, that was really good. I really, really like that. So it is great to catch up on it. Now, I'm going to age myself a bit. You mentioned how the minivan had a DVD player.
DVD.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm old enough. I remember my mom's minivan. We had like a traditional TV with a VCR player. in that
Whoa.
thing. Yeah. Like
Oh,
that was not common,
huh.
but I can remember, the VCR player in the car, which is crazy.
How?
The car came that way. It wasn't like we hooked it up or anything.
Oh, okay.
It was
I was
so
wondering how that worked out.
yeah. I still don't know anybody that had like a VCR in their car. That's kind of weird. But yeah, I for some reason I remember watching Nightmare Before Christmas a lot on that thing, and maybe
Wow.
we might have just left that tape in the car or something. I don't know. But so that's cool. So you had that to entertain you. What kind of what were you watching to prepare for the trip?
Oh, okay. So I have a whole list here of the movies I remember watching
Oh my
in the
goodness,
car.
let's hear it.
Yes. So okay. So
And were these like first time things for you for the most part?
um, some of them were. Some of them were definitely first times that I've just never owned. I guess it never released on VHS when I was younger. So I
Okay.
guess that's why I never watched them before. But yeah, some are rewatch or just like remembering like what actually happened, and some are first times. And I'm really glad that we had those copies here. So going down the list, we have Peter Pan. So that was a rewatch for sure. I definitely remember a lot of aspects of Peter Pan, like the second starter to right. I love that intro of the movie. And yeah, that was like the one thing that really caught on to me when I was younger, the second starter right, which is I don't know if that's what every child who watches that for the first time really gravitates towards.
Yeah, you mean
but-
like that opening, the second star to the right?
Yes,
I feel like
exactly.
a lot of kids fast forward through that, to be honest. That's so funny and I don't get me wrong, I love that song and that opening, but that's a funny thing for a kid to hold on to. That's interesting.
Yeah, I know. So and then the next one after that was the Jungle Book, which I watched for the first time. And interestingly enough, I think watching the Jungle Book, I think for me that was the first time I really recognized a voice actor, and that was the voice actor who did Kaa, and I believe I want to say it was Sterling Holloway. I can't remember for sure.
Yes, Ka is Sterling Holloway, the voice of Winnie the Pooh.
Yes, and me and my cousin looked at each other when Kaa was speaking, and we're like, "Does that sound like Winnie the Pooh to you?"
Yeah.
And then we just closed our eyes, and we're just like, "That's Winnie the Pooh. That's definitely spot on Winnie the Pooh." And I just remember that moment being like, "Wow, like Disney just grabs all these voice actors from all their other movies, and it's just interesting to see their extent of their voice acting."
They reused them quite a bit, I will say, with like the older Disney films, and you don't necessarily notice it just because you are like they're not household names to us now.
Right.
But back in the day, I'll tell you, like there's a lot of repeat stuff, and it's crazy. And the same thing happens today. It's just we are more familiar with like the celebrity names that tend to be attached to them. So it's interesting. Okay, so the Jungle Book was on your list.
Oh yes, The Little Mermaid. That was a rewatch for sure.
The best.
I know your take on The Little Mermaid, so
Love Little Mermaid.
yes. Beauty and the Beast, rewatch again. I just want to say that this is if Little Mermaid to you is your favorite, Beauty and the Beast is mine.
I will say Beauty and the Beast is a very, 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 very close second for me. I love Beauty and the Beast. It's fantastic.
Just that intro with the stained glass and that piano. Doo-doo-doo.
Yeah.
Oh, love that.
It's a great movie.
Aladdin, that's a rewatch as well. Lion King, and have you seen Lion King 1.5?
I don't know if I have, to be honest. I don't watch a ton of the direct-to-video sequels. If I had to guess, I'd say I probably have not seen The Lion King 1.5. That's the one where it's like Timon and Pumbaa's story, right?
Yes, and
It's like it's the original
enough,
movie from their point of view, I think, right?
Yes, exactly. And
Which I should check that out because I tend to like that, like seeing a story from somebody else's perspective. I find that really interesting.
No, honestly, and it is really good. Like it's really creative how they tie it into the original movie. Like some aspects in the original movie, it's kind of caused, or you see how it relates to what Timon and Pumbaa were doing in this movie. And honestly, I really think I remember this more, Lion King 1.5, more than the original. But I really enjoyed.
Wow, that's quite a statement. That's crazy.
I mean, like as I got older, I rewatched Lion King more, but growing up, Lion King 1.5 was the one I had replayed a lot more than Lion King 1.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so and then Toy Story 1 and 2, those are definitely rewatches because I would wear out Toy Story 1 and 2 a lot. Like I even had a book. I had a book which came with a CD, and the CD would just be an audiobook basically of the book that you're reading. And I just remember listening to that and just reliving Toy Story in that book, and it was just great.
So any of these films that you're watching, were you doing it actually, I meant to ask you, was this your first trip to Walt Disney World?
The first one I'm old enough to remember.
Okay, cool.
When I was 1 year old, my mom, my parents took me to Disneyland on the west side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so obviously can't remember that at all. And we did go to Walt Disney World when I was 4 years old.
Okay.
And I have vague memories of that. Like the one memory I really remember from that was having an autograph book and walking up to Mickey, and that's pretty much my only memory of Walt Disney World when I was 4 years old.
Okay, so these films that you're watching in the car, was there any strategy? I mean, you were 12, so probably not, but was there any strategy as far as like, oh, well, there's this new thing that's there that I really want to make sure I'm familiar with? Or was it just like, hey, throw a bunch of Disney movies in the car and keep these kids quiet?
Honestly, it was whatever was in our little CD case and just going in that order.
Okay.
Because watching Disney Channel mostly, because that's where my fandom came from mostly at this age. There were some commercials of stuff that was going on in the Disney parks. And like one I remember was like Expedition Everest when that first opened. But like in terms of like IPs, I never saw commercials for any of those. Like I know
oh, how times have changed.
Oh yes, for sure. Like I think 2 years before I went, Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor just opened at the Magic Kingdom.
Okay.
But like I had no idea that IPs were involved at all at Walt Disney World.
Okay.
So yeah, no, I really just watched these movies just because I wanted to just be part of the Disney, just relive the Disney canon all over again.
That's cool. Now, did you guys have any fun, wild, like stops that you hit along the way? Or any Griswold-like moments?
Nothing to that extent, for sure. I just remember, I know in National Lampoon's Vacation where they stop at that diner where they deliver the food to you in your car.
Yeah.
I remember we did stop at one of those, and I was just so confused as the aspect of like, so this is kind of like a drive-through, but you're just sitting here. Like, why don't we just go inside? Like, I just found that idea so weird to me. Like, if I'm gonna get food, why would
that
I
is
just
a
eat
logical thought for a kid. I completely understand. That's great. Why don't we just go inside?
Yeah,
because you don't have to take those few steps indoors. That's really funny. I like that. That's great.
Yeah, it was just weird. I don't know. I enjoyed the food, but I just remember just like, because we're gonna have to throw this out now. Like, I mean, well,
now there's trash in the car. That's funny. I interrupted your movie list. Sorry. Go ahead, bang.
Oh, sorry.
What were some of the others?
Hercules. I don't remember if I owned this, but this was like I remember watching it for the first time, I guess here. Hercules was like, I never heard anything bad growing up about it, but watching it, I was like, wow, like the gospel stuff, the take it took. Like, you see, I watched like Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King. Then you get to Hercules, where it has a very tonal shift from the other movies.
It's different. It's beyond the Renaissance, in my opinion. Some people would argue this. There are die-hard Hercules fans out there. I am not one of them. I think I've seen Hercules once, and it was in the movie theater. So it's something that I probably should go back and revisit. I love the music from Hercules. I think that if I'm remembering correctly, that was definitely my favorite part of the movie. But I never really got into it. But there is definitely a generation of kids out there. Hercules is like epic for them. So yeah, I'm not in that camp, and apparently neither are you. But
no, like the one song I really do like is "Go the Distance."
Sure.
I think that, like, especially Michael Bolton's version was that Michael Bolton's version just really motivates a person, especially me. Like, I just love hearing how he just crescendos up and it's just wow.
So you're
Anyways.
so you're on the treadmill running to Michael Bolton's Go the Distance.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
All right.
So yeah, further down on the list, Mulan 1 and 2.
I don't think I ever saw
Mulan 2.
I don't think I saw that sequel.
Oh,
you know what sequels I did see and hated? And actually, I think I watched these. One of them I watched because I love the original. The other one I watched because of A Princess Pondering, I believe. But I watched Pocahontas 2. Horrifically bad for Pocahontas 2. Hated it. And then Hunchback of Notre Dame 2 also did not like. And I love that movie, which is why I watched it, but not a great sequel.
Tarzan. I don't understand a lot of people's hate for it.
I love Tarzan.
Okay, good.
I think Tarzan is a lot better than Hercules.
Oh, for sure. Like, Phil Collins' music is great. I think like him singing the whole soundtrack was like really good.
I do remember that bothering me at the time. I'm not going to lie. As a teenager, I remember seeing Tarzan in the theater and not liking the fact that it wasn't a musical in the traditional sense. Like the only number the characters sing is a little bit of "You'll Be in My Heart" when Glenn Close's character sings, and then you've got "Trash in the Camp" with Rosie O'Donnell, and then "In Sync" later on, not in the movie but in the credits. And like those, I like traditional musical theater moments. So like the Phil Collins stuff, singing his stuff, I didn't love as much. I've grown to really like it, but that was the thing. And also, that's probably what turned a lot of people off from Tarzan, because I think that was the first time they really did that. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's why Tarzan kind of didn't get the love that. But I think it's great. I really do. Yeah, no, I really think it's underestimated. Like, I feel like there's something there for people to really enjoy, like just seeing, Tarzan feel out of place in both worlds with the family that adopted the gorillas that adopted him and the human side that he's trying to embrace as well. Like, I would love to analyze Tarzan, but that's say that for another time. Episode.
Yes. So The Emperor's New Groove. Now
that's one I never got into. Once again, people love that one.
Jeff, you have to try again. Like,
what, I may have to, because I think I saw it at like an outdoor screening, which as much as I love watching movies outdoors, I don't think it's the best way to watch a movie for the first time. So I might have to watch Emperor's New Groove again.
Oh, it's just so funny. So it breaks the wall so many times. Kronk is like the shining star, and I've never seen Kronk's New Groove, and I have no reason to, because of just how badly received that sounded. Like, that's another thing about these Disney sequels, when they take one of the side characters and make them the star of the sequel. That's a whole nother thing.
Apparently it worked for The Lion King, but whatever.
Well, but I know that's weird how that worked out. So continuing down, Monsters Inc. Again, a rewatch.
So you were ready for Laugh Floor.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, I guess it greatly ties into the Laugh Floor, but no, the Monsters Inc. to me was it's a good movie. I love the stuff with Boo. Boo is just a shining star of that movie. And then Lilo and Stitch being the next movie. I guess not great representation in the park when I went with Stitch's Great Escape.
So you legitimately, you watched basically the entire Disney library, it sounds like, on your road trip to Walt Disney World. I had my own Disney road trip that I absolutely loved. It wasn't to a Disney park, but when I was driving across the country to move, as I said, I took 10 days, so I had very specific places to stop. And one of those places I stopped was Marceline, Missouri, which is where Walt Disney grew up. And it's funny because I'd say maybe a few months before I went and did this road trip, I was watching some special features on the Lady and the Tramp DVD. And they had a little special feature about Marceline, Missouri, and how it very much informed the design and look of Lady and the Tramp. And so I started researching Marceline, Missouri. I was like, maybe this is someplace I should stop. And then I started reading about this annual festival they have. I think they call it the Toon the Toon Festival, something like that, where they bring in a lot of animators, and it's really celebrating animation in Walt Disney this weekend. And I timed my road trip so that I would be in Marceline for that celebration. And I spent a couple days there. And honestly, it was one of the coolest things I've ever done. In fact, I'm going to plug something real quickly. I always talk about over on DisneyCoastToCoast.com, you can sign up for a free gift, and that free gift is called America's Hidden Mickeys. And it's basically these lesser-known Disney destinations around the USA, and one of them is Marceline, Missouri. And if you're a Disney fan, like, this is a place to go. It's awesome. It's small town, super, like, low production value, but charming. And so many, if you do your research and really look into it before you go, it's such a trip worth taking. And I really hope to get back there someday. It's been 13 years for me now since I was there, and I really need to get back. But I loved it. And that was like my Disney road trip. And I will say, when I did get to LA, the day after I moved here and got here, we went to Disneyland. So
of course.
I took a really long 10-day road trip to get to Disneyland, essentially. But yeah, road tripping's fun. And I got to be honest, it's not something that I always wanted to do. I did it out of necessity when I moved. And then I was like, after that, I was like, I want to road trip this entire country. This is so much fun. I really do.
Wow.
I think it's fantastic. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of cornfields where there's nothing.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
But I really, really loved it. So I'm happy to hear you had like a pleasant road trip, it sounds like. You did not have a Griswold or a Goldbergs road trip.
Not at all.
And then you got there, what did you spend, like 4 days there?
Yes, about 4 days, 3 nights. We checked into the Animal Kingdom Lodge.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I know. At least first time that I remember, like, going to a Walt Disney World resort and just, being that being my first one was like, set the bar very high, and it lived up to it. Like, I remember when we were planning this, I just remember my mom telling me, I just remembered like hearing this, such an exaggeration. She was telling me how there are animals at the resort, which is true. And she was telling me how the giraffes are so close to you that if you were to open your balcony door, they would just poke their head in right into you, and they would just wake you up that way. And I was like, wow, we gotta go to that hotel.
Yeah, it's not quite like that, but still, it's pretty cool. They have those balconies where you can see the animals. And from what I understand, you're not actually looking into the park at all. It's a whole separate area specifically for the resort.
Oh, yeah, so, right for the resort. But it's very close to Animal Kingdom, the park itself, yeah.
That's cool. Well, that's fantastic. Anything else you want to add about your road trip?
Well, that was the one and only road trip I've done to Walt Disney World. And every trip after that I've always flown. As much as the road trip itself is pleasant, I just don't like being cooped up in a car for so long when I know I can just get there right away on a plane. Yeah,
obviously flying is a better option if you can do it. The thing about a road trip is, for me, it needs to be about the road trip. It can't be about the final destination. So if your goal is just get to Orlando, hop on a plane. But if you're going to do a road trip, I'd say find all those little places that are fun to check out. I actually, do you know Atlas Obscura? Have you heard of this? It's a website, atlasobscura.com, I think it is. And you can sign up for their emails. And every day they send you emails just about really interesting things going on in the world. And sometimes it's about interesting locations to visit, like the Coca-Cola Museum, or like weird little things you wouldn't think about. And between that and just like research on my own and things I've read, I keep a file in my email, and I just put all of this stuff in there because I'm like, one of these days I'm just going to go on a crazy road trip and hit a bunch of these places, or I just want to know that, like, wherever I'm going, if for some reason, they're like, you're going to Minnesota, I'll pull up that file and see what's in Minnesota, if anything, that I want to check out. Because I don't know, I love these weird, quirky, bizarre places. Like, I want to go to Ohio because the Christmas Story house is there, and somebody has made it up to look like the Christmas Story house exactly as it was in the film. Wow. And I'm like, that's awesome to me. Like, it's all very exciting. I nerd out about weird little places. So if you're going to road trip, the way to do it is the problem is you need a lot of time, right? So you need to get to Orlando so that you can have 4 days at the park to get back in time for school or whatever. Like I said, I took 10 days. So the best way to road trip is when you can do these fun little things along the way. I think I would hate road tripping if it was just like point A to point B. I definitely had some days of those where it was like 10 hours of driving, and I just had to like mentally prepare myself. But it was I don't know. I think road tripping is a blast. I know there are a lot of people who probably hate it. I also enjoy driving, so it's crazy. But I'm glad that you had that experience. That's cool. And now every time you're just like, I'm just gonna fly. But I'll tell you what,
for sure.
you will never get that many films from the Disney library in your flight to Walt Disney World.
That's true. That
and
I know
you won't get to pull up to a restaurant, have somebody come out, take your order, and bring you your food in the car.
And just question, like, why am I doing this? Why am I not going inside?
Exactly. Anywho, I think that wraps up for the Goldbergs and our road trip stories to Disney experiences. So I think that means it's trivia time! All right, Ryan, do you want to hit me with the trivia question first, or shall I hit you?
How about you go first?
Okay, well, the Goldbergs, as we mentioned, they always say it takes place in 1980-something. That's how we start. Patton Oswalt, who has done voices, the voice of Remy in Ratatouille, of course. He is the voiceover of adult Adam in the Goldbergs. And every episode starts, it's 1980-something. Well, in this specific episode of the Goldbergs, going to Disneyland road trip, if they were going, well, I'm not even going to give you that information. What is, based on what we know from that episode, what is the earliest year it could have been in order for that episode to have made sense?
Okay, so they do mention Star Tours. That Adam mentions that it has just opened, I believe. And I think that opened in Disneyland, I want to say 86 or 87.
Very good. Okay, so the official opening is January 9th of 1987. I'm pretty sure it was testing before that in 86. So the earliest I would say that it could be was 1987. So very good. And that's the reason why, because Star Tours was open. So although it's 1980 something and they were obsessed with the vacation movie, which was actually 1983, apparently the mom for 4 years had been watching it on repeat because, yes, 1987 is the correct answer. That's the earliest it could have been.
Okay, I just have a quick tangent. Just want to...
Never. You're not allowed on Disney Coast to Coast to go on tangents. Let's hear it.
Okay, I've seen the first season, and you have as well. And, okay, I don't know if you remember, but there are slight nods to Disney properties in the show. I remember very early on, they mentioned that The Great Mouse Detective has just come out. And I remember Googling that, just trying to get a grasp on what time this took place.
Yeah.
And that was 1986.
Okay.
And the earliest this could have been.
Oh, yes. You're talking about as far as the characters' ages are concerned?
Yeah.
It's all over the place. It makes zero sense. They contradict they contradict themselves something, which is why I think they do the 1980 something thing. It really These are, in a lot of cases, they are true stories of things that Adam Goldberg in real life did, but not necessarily at the age that he did them.
Okay, because I was so confused going from season 1 and then straight into season 7, and then they're just going off to college now?
Yeah, you just need to be able to suspend your disbelief and accept it, and that's just...
My head was hurting.
That's the thing with that show. I actually, interestingly enough, it doesn't bug me that much, and I think that the whole 1980-something is a clever way of getting around it. But yes, I agree that has the potential to be extremely frustrating. So you just cannot care about... It's 1980 something. That's it. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah, I just have to push that aside and just, you know what? It's a good... I mean, the episodes are good. I can't lie. The episodes are good. But once you really dig into when these take place, that's a whole other issue. But you know
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, what's your trivia question for me? Let's hear it.
Okay, so since I did go to the park in 2010, I thought I would pick a trivia question that relates to what's been going on at Walt Disney World in 2010.
Okay.
So let's see. I want to see. I'm not sure if you're going to get this. I'll be surprised if you do, and I'll be happy to discuss your take on it. So in 2010, Disney's Hollywood Studios, they had a property that they bought, and they had characters that would meet around Streets of America. And I want to know if you know what group of characters met on Streets of America and were eventually sold later that year in 2010.
I think you're talking about the Power Rangers.
Wow, Jeff. Wow.
Is that right?
I honestly, yeah, I
Okay.
honestly did not expect you to get that.
Yeah, I do remember seeing the Power Rangers in the park, not being a fan of that because, correct, Disney did not own them.
Mhm.
But to be fair, a lot of the stuff at Disney's Hollywood Studios, Disney did not own. So yeah, I remember the Power Rangers, and I specifically remember seeing them come out on a van
Yes.
and recognizing that is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles van painted a different color.
Really?
Yes, that was the van from when the Ninja Turtles were in the park.
Mhm.
It was painted a different color, and I could be making this up, but I feel like I've even seen the Toy Story Soldiers use the same van painted a different color.
Wow.
So that is my biggest memory of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I actually wasn't a Power Rangers fan. My little brother definitely was. He was way more into it than me. But yeah, no, I remember them being there. I'm old enough to remember them being there, sadly. But
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, I remember.
go Power Rangers!
Yes, exactly. See, the theme was good. The theme was.
I would
good,
agree.
but-
I did like the theme song. Yes.
Yeah. So a funny thing about that. So that was my first trip that I was aware of, and I went again 2 years later with another family related to me. And every year since we not every year since, but every trip mostly we've been going with a different family. Like it's usually me and my mom, and we just go with another one of her siblings and their family.
Sure.
So 2 years after that trip, we went again to Walt Disney World, and my cousin, he was very into Power Rangers, and we were trying to get him excited because he was around my age too when he went, and he just wasn't feeling any of the Disney stuff. He never really gravitated towards it at that time.
Hmm.
So we were just really getting him excited for Power Rangers.
You let him
So-
stay in the family, even though he felt that way?
You know, family's family. You just gotta,
All right, fine.
But so funny enough, in the same year that I went last time in 2010, the rights had reverted back to the original owner, and I had no idea, of course, like who really keeps up with that, right?
Yeah.
So when we went back in 2012, we were so confused, like where are the Power Rangers? Like there's nothing on the meet and greet guide. There's no signs anywhere. So we went up to a cast member and we're asking them like, where's the Power Rangers, or where's any merchandise for them? Because like at least if there's merchandise, we'll just get that for him. And I remember her telling us that like, oh, sorry, the rights went back, and just seeing his sad, disappointed face, being like, then why am I even here? I was like, oh, well, I don't know what else to really get you on.
Oh, that's sad. You should have been like, you're going to become a Muppet fan. That's what's going to happen right now. You're going to become a Muppet fan. You know what? I have a bonus trivia for you that's actually more
Ooh, okay.
related to the Griswolds and National Lampoon's Vacation. But I am curious, just because it's park related,
Right.
do you know where the real park is that represented Wally World in National Lampoon's Vacation?
Does it? I'm not sure, to be honest. Like, is it still in California?
Yeah, it's
Or
about 30 minutes from me. I'm in Burbank. It's about 30 minutes from where I am.
Was it Six Flags?
Yeah, Six Flags Magic
Oh,
Mountain.
wow.
I don't know if at that point it was actually owned by Six Flags, but Magic Mountain is the park that you see the Griswolds get snuck into by the security guard.
Right.
Even though they've arrived and it's closed. So that's
I know.
fun. Anywho, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was so much fun to talk about the Goldbergs and our little road trips, Ryan. So thanks so much. Is there anything you want to plug?
So anyone listening can follow me on Twitter. My name is Earth2Ryan, so that's EARTH, the number 2, and RYAN_. So that's Earth2Ryan again. I am an all-around geek who just follows too many things, so I'll be tweeting about Disney stuff, Marvel stuff, regular TV shows. Like, I'm all around, so if you want to look into pop culture stuff, you can follow me on Twitter there.
And frankly, let this be a lesson learned, folks. If you're following Disney Coast to Coast on Twitter, that's DIZNEYCTC on Twitter, you can maybe one day respond to a tweet and end up on an episode of Disney Coast to Coast. That's a good reason to follow us on social media.
Oh, for sure.
All of our social media links are over at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. Of course, if you're tired of just listening to podcasts and you want to start one of your very own, head over to youcanpodcastnow.net for some more free information there. That's youcanpodcastnow.net. And I do want to give a shout out to my patrons, Philip, Rio, Monet, Anna, Diego, James, Gerardo, Jared, Matt, Jeffrey, and Jessica. Thank you so much for supporting the show through Patreon. If you'd like to become a member of the DCTC community like these fabulous folks, plus get Q&A live streams, early episode releases, and even maybe be a guest on Trivia Time, and so much more, it all starts for just $1 over at patreon.com/DisneyCTC. That's patreon.com/DIZNEYCTC. Other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.